Nightly Musers, followers of the pod, faithful few and hopeful many, this is Anchor by Spotify. If you haven't heard about it, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. It's the very platform that allows me to give you what I give you on the nightly. So let me explain. Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. And it gives you the ability to distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and so much more. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. And best of all, Anchor is totally FREE free. So here's where you come in. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. That is ANCHOR.fm to get started. Thank you very much. Peace. Welcome to the Nightly Muse podcast. If you were listening to the previous episode, I feel like things got real, but I didn't get too personal. And so here I am trying to be faithful to what Timmy told me I needed to do and get personal. And so, have I experienced an earthquake or genocide? No. But a broken heart and a world that feels like it's breaking in two, yes. I've felt that. And now I'm trying to figure out how to say where I was. The first time I felt furthest from God was when my grandmother died my sophomore year of high school. Now, to add context, that was also the time in my life where I probably experienced the most female rejection that I thought was possible. And it didn't end there, but that kept continuing. I've been single my whole life, which is okay. But my sophomore year, I was probably as lonely as I'd ever been. I was having the worst football season of my career. And I just started playing, so you come off an 8th grade year where you go undefeated. A freshman year where the season starts off hot, quarterback gets injured, you're a standout player, get pulled up for a couple varsity games, they win the first state championship, and you get to dress for the games, get a ring, all that stuff. Go into the next season expecting to be a starter because you'd been doing well in the off season, and all of a sudden, with really no communication on your end, you just kind of find out you're not anymore. And as a kid who needed that affirmation, needed communication I didn't get, and it messed with my head, and always overthinking myself, which is a constant struggle for me. And I was getting ready, I guess, to experience a lot of rejection. Unbeknownst to 14-year-old Kennedy. And so we're having a football game. We're playing Victory Christian School. And it's the one good game I had on the varsity level that season. Blocked a pass. I think I got a tackle or two. It was the one game where I knew I played well and I felt good about myself as an athlete because I was riding the pine and I thought I was good enough to play and lost a lot of confidence. But that game, afterwards, I come off, go to see my dad. Well, actually, no, I was about to go to the sidelines, but I saw my head coach, and my dad. together at the track at like the bottom of the stands. So I go to him because I'm getting summoned over, and then he tells me that my grandmother passed away, and I like collapsed onto the ground and into a kneeling position, I guess, and I just start weeping. And one of the sweetest moments of my life, I end up back in the locker room, and my entire team is waiting for me because I guess they all knew. And I'm just a shell of myself. I'm crying and crying and crying, and my grandmother's gone. At that time, both grandmothers now had passed away. And I was pretty angry at God, not because she died, but because she, you grow up in America and there's this thing called Grandparents' Day, which sucks as a first generation American whose grandparents don't live here. I saw my paternal grandfather 4 times in my life. I saw my grandmother 3 times. Saw my maternal grandmother once. And my grandfather, I never met him because he left the family when my mother was 4. So I had 3 grandparents total that I knew of, really. And 2 that I really got to interact with over my life. And 4 times in 18 years. Really 4 times in 23 years for my grandfather, and 3 times in 14 is not a lot. And I craved relationship with them so badly. And to find out that my grandmother died, I felt cheated by him being God. Because they were the only people I really wanted around that were extended family that I needed. I wanted them at my football games, but they couldn't be there. They were old. And I hated it, and I felt like I got the short end of the stick, of the relational stick, between the rest of our extended family, because everybody else kind of grew up with them. They were older. And it sucked. And I remember that night. The night I felt frozen in time. I was sitting in the living room. All of a sudden, I was just sitting blankly. It felt like everything was going in slow motion, but moving at light speed at the same time, because all of a sudden it was 4 a.m, and I'd been sitting in the same spot all night, just frozen. Because the person that I wanted relationship with, I was, I guess, relegated to letters and phone calls that cracked all the time and you couldn't really hear them. And then WhatsApp and a time difference that was 7 or 6 hours depending on daylight savings, and never enough, but always all you had. And I remember that was actually the first time I went to pornography as an escape. And that changed a lot of things for me, because that turned it into a dangerous game. It wasn't just something I was struggling with that I kind of found out what it was after I'd already been doing it for a while. No, this became an escape. And I was angry. And I didn't have the capacity to ask God, where are you? But I felt lost. I felt lost at times when I was in 5th grade. I remember I had a good amount of hair and didn't know what to do with it ever. It's just this common struggle even to this day. I have dreads now, which is new because I wasn't allowed to have them when I was a kid. But I remember I combed my hair super, super hard in the front so that it could, like, I basically created bangs for myself. It was so glad that my sisters talked me out of that. It was the cringiest thing I've ever done, one of them. And I remember, fifth graders were kids, so we think, oh, that's so cool, whatever, right? And so anyway, but this kind of, not identity crisis, but, you're in a place where you're the minority and you're kind of like wrestling with it in ways, trying to like figure out what that means and learning what you can and can't do, what you don't ever, I guess, I never got to learn like to really value who I was as a Black person until later in my life. And partly in a good way, there was health in that. My parents always raised us to view ourselves as God's children first, and then their children second, and then Zimbabweans, and then at the very end of the list was kind of our skin color, our Blackness, and that's okay. But you learn to not really care about something that God made you intentionally to be. Part of being made in his image meant that I wasn't made Black by mistake. That my hair was made kinky and that wasn't an accident. Whatever, is it C4 or something? It's very tough to manage, but it is what it is, right? Talking about that beautiful episode, I didn't find beauty in myself. Not because I needed to hear it, but because I was in a space where I was the other. And so that can develop, questions and then feelings of, God, why am I this way? You ask yourself, maybe if I was white, would more people be interested in me? And I'm sure that's a tough one. But yeah, you ask yourself those questions. If my head wasn't shaped the way it was, if I wasn't bigger than most humans, if I wasn't this, if I wasn't that, God, would I be more desirable? Where are you at my least desirable, God? And where do I turn? When friends hurt you in a way that you feel like you wouldn't do to them, God, why are you making me feel this pain? When friends are suffering and you're trying to figure out how to love them, but you're also like, I don't know if this is the path, and you don't know how to say that, but you want to love them with everything that you have. God, why are you putting me in this situation? This isn't what I thought life would be. Oof, and there's a spider crawling on my wall that I have to kill. That's a vibe killer. Also, about to turn into a spider killer. So as I kill this spider, wow, y'all are gonna witness a murder live on the podcast. Tough. Ooh, that is nasty. I just stepped on it with my foot. Oh, did I miss? Oh no. Oh, that is literally a nightmare. Oh, gosh, guys. We're just gonna believe that I killed it. I had to step on it with my foot, and I think I might have missed. Oh, nope, I did not miss. Nasty. Ooh. That is gross. Well, questions. Feeling far from God. George Floyd. Division. anger that people who look like you keep getting killed, and it seems like the only reason that they're getting killed is because they look like you. Oh, what do you do when the place that you believe has all the answers isn't giving them because they're afraid of the bottom line, or at least that's what it seems like? Where are you, God? When Christians are supposed to be at the forefront of the issue, but they're not, where are you? When family puts the fun in dysfunction, because that's what every family does, but you're realizing it for the first time, God, where are you? And that's all I'm willing to say on that. But where are you in pain? Where are you in suffering? Where are you when my life has lost its innocence and I feel like everything is just shaking underneath me? God, where are you? I've asked those questions and I've experienced that before. I have. And man, I wish I could go deeper, but I don't have the capacity to do that today. But I feel like I've gone deep enough for you to understand that this isn't just like a abstract concept to me. And I know you know that, but suffering is not new. That isn't to negate or belittle suffering, but it's to say it's a common experience that we all share, and it makes us question. And in a world where we know that everything isn't perfect and we know that things are fallen, I'm sorry, but I don't want to settle for God, just come save me now. I understand the rhetoric, I understand the sentiment behind that, but I also feel like God has equipped us to be agents of reconciliation on this side. He's equipped us to be co-conspirators with him to usher in an era of peace and justice and goodness and kindness and gentleness, to bring this fruits of the Spirit and allow that to be the change that the world needs to see, because we're supposed to be at the forefront of that if what we believe is true. And so, no, I don't want to settle for racism ends when God comes back, because obviously I know that is true, but I also know that we can be a part of fighting for that better life now. When we see something go wrong, we say it. When we see children getting killed, we are unified in horror and pain and frustration. Like, I see all of that and I feel all of that, and I feel like, man, God, I have all this anger inside of me and I don't know what to do with it. And I don't even feel like talking to you about it because I feel like you already know, so what's the point? And I know I've said that already. I've said that in the last episode, but that is the realest feeling that I have when I feel frustrated with God and I feel like, what's the point of talking to him? It's because I'm like, you already know. So what's the use of trying? And I have to remind myself, and I think oftentimes when I talked about my faith being unwavering, it's about going back to the basics. It's about going back outside, looking up and seeing the stars beautiful as ever, bright as ever, bright as ever, brilliant as ever, noticing my smallness, my infinitesimalness, my infinitessence, I guess, and God's all of them's omnipotence, omniscience, his omnibenevolence, his omnicreativityness. I don't know, but all of the things, God, I mean, he is just, I see it and I'm like, it's gotta be there. And so in that space where I break it down to the basics and I say, okay, God, if this is my baseline, then this is where I'm going to move forward from. Then my baseline now with when God feels far away. So my baseline now when God feels far away is this. I know I don't want to talk to him. I know that I have all of these questions, but I also know that the one time that I was real, the one time that I reached out and stretched out my hand and said, God, all right, hear me out. This is where I am. Life sucks. I'm in pain and my heart is breaking. And I don't know what to do and I can't take another step because it hurts so freaking bad. God, here I am. Where are you? When I say that, when I said that, he was closer than ever. And so I have to preach that to myself, not because I'm going to do it every time, but it's because I know that if I preach it to myself enough times, I may do it one more. And if I preach it to myself enough times after that, I may do it again and experience that peace that passes all understanding and experience a God who knows my pain and feels it more than I'm capable of feeling it. It's about that. It's about taking steps toward that God that I know is powerful enough to heal my heart, hold it in his hands, and tell me that it's okay because I am going to make it better one day. And so my hope for God to come back and restore all things isn't a hope that's a cop-out. It's a hope that actually brings me comfort and allows me to go to sleep knowing that one day it will be restored, but that also I can be a part of that restoration. So, my encouragement to you guys is to keep asking those questions. Keep seeking, keep searching. Because though God feels far, he isn't. And one thing that I had to realize is that God doesn't feel far because he went anywhere. Sometimes, all the times that God feels far, it's because I've pushed him away. It's because I have isolated. I have retreated from him. I've run away and covered myself up in the fig leaves to make myself feel secure. It's not him. He's always the same, arms stretched wide, ready for you to return, ready to comfort you, ready to embrace you. And I'm not trying to preach, but this is literally my heart. And if you hear this and you know who I am, or you want to reach out and hear a more in-depth version, there ain't no Patreon for it, call me. Email me and I'll let you know what I've been through and the pain and the things that I've processed. Because I can tell you 2020 was one of the worst years of my life, and I can only say one of, because 2022, man, that 2021, 2022 turnover gave 2020 a run for its money. Seeing firsthand brokenness that I never thought I would see. Getting into conflict that I never thought I'd get into. Feeling pain and anger and frustrations that I never thought I'd feel. And struggling to be faithful to God in ways that I thought I'd be done with this by now. And in all of that, there's a God who understands and wants me to keep coming to him. And so my encouragement to you, I know you may not believe this. I don't know where you are and I don't know who's hearing this, but I know that you're here for some reason. And so it would be remiss of me to not use my platform to talk about the person that I believe is the most important person in the world. To say that he loves you and he cares. And that his arms are stretched open wide, ready for you to start trusting him and taking steps toward trusting him better, trusting him more, and accepting that arm, that hand, those arms that are stretched open wide, ready to embrace you. And maybe that's through a friend. Maybe that's through a conversation. Maybe that's through a podcast episode. But whatever way, know that he loves you. And know that he is there in the city life. He is there in the city light. He is there in the earthquake. He is there in the genocide. He is there with your broken heart. He is there when everything seems to fall apart. And when everything feels rusted over, he will tell you that he is right there. with the babies and the hearses, with the blessings and the curses. He's there. So, I'm gonna rub some numbing agent on the roof of my mouth, and I'm gonna go to sleep. I hope this was a blessing to somebody. And if I was a little harder to hear, it's because I have little control of the saliva in my mouth right now because my mouth is numb. But it's losing its numbing effect right now and it hurts. But I'm basically drooling. Not really. I'm like foaming at the mouth. Anyway, that's probably TMI for y'all. But anyway, that's where I am. I'm trying to be real. Hot, as Michael Todd says. Honest, open, and transparent, baby. This was the Nightly Muse. Talk to you next time. Peace out. Love y'all. Nightly Musers. Y'all are the best. Go Warriors. Warriors in 6. Or 5. Really, it's just Warriors. That's all I care about. Steph's going to get his finals MVP. And that's all I have to say on that. As Kendrick Perkins says, carry on.